Hello, good morning, students. Last class we were talking about moment of inertia of different bodies and how moment of inertia and angular momentum can be related to each other. And we have seen the connected equations and how it is derived. All those things we studied. And this time we will see some regularly shaped objects. Okay, bodies having regular shape. For example, a ring or a sphere or a plane sheet, like that. Such bodies have symmetrical shapes or regular shapes. Okay, so moment of inertia of such bodies can be easily calculated with the proper parameterization. Okay, we have a standard equation for finding the moment of inertia of bodies. So using that, we can make appropriate substitution for the mass, for the length of distance of different objects from the axis of rotation. Like that we can make, and we can find out the moment of inertia of standard objects. Okay, that is what we are going to do. Anyway, once again, I would like to recap your previous knowledge about the moment of inertia. So essentially, this is a rotational quantity. So we can call it as the rotational equivalent of linear inertia. In linear motion, you have inertia, so that you know it's a tendency of a body to remain in a particular state, either moving state or resting state. So here also it has the similar identical sense. Moment of inertia implies tendency of a body to remain in that state, particular state. Okay, but here we can quantitatively express the value of the inertia. Anyway, its physical sense is the same. Inertia for engaging in any rotational motion. Okay, so it is a measure of opposition that the body exhibits on changing its speed by applying a torque. So it's an opposition, measure of opposition exhibited by any body on applied with a torque, external torque. Okay, it's an opposition, you can say. And here one more thing is very important. What is the axis of rotation? The body can rotate with respect to different axes. Okay, and depending on the axis, its corresponding moment of inertia may be different. Okay, so it varies with the axis to axis. That is very important. That means the opposition or tendency for opposition vary from axis to axis. So with respect to certain axis, rotation might be very easy, whereas with respect to some other axis, rotation may be more difficult, or more, you can say extent of rotation may be higher. Okay, and you can quantitatively define moment of inertia. We have studied that moment of inertia is the sum of the products obtained by multiplying the mass of each particle of that matter in a given body by the square of its distance from the axis. And mathematically we express it as I equal m1 r1 square plus m2 r2 square plus so on and until mn rn square. So this is the mathematical expression. So we have now the physical context, physical significance, and this mathematical expression, and why it is important in rotation motion. Okay, so now let us switch over to the calculation of moment of inertia of different objects. So let us start with a simple object, that is a thin hoop, a circular ring, you can say. Consider a circular ring of radius capital R. Okay, and you have an axis. The axis is passed into the center of the circle O. Okay, so the entire ring you can divide into small pieces, each of mass dm. Okay. Then suppose the ring, the hoop is circulating with respect to this axis. You can imagine that each small segment is actually rotating around the axis. So then it is very easy to calculate the moment of inertia. You add up the elementary moment of inertia of each segment. So you will get the total moment of inertia of the entire ring or hoop. Okay, so you consider the ring and imagine that the total mass of the ring is capital M. Total mass of the ring is capital M and radius is small r. So if that is the case, then you can find the mass per unit length. That is an important quantity for the ring. The mass per unit length will be total mass m divided by total length. Total length will be 2 pi r. So mass per unit length will be equal to total mass m divided by total length 2 pi r. So that let us say imagine it is lambda. The mass per unit length is equal to lambda. Because this is required. Why? Because we want to find the total moment of inertia. That is the integral r dm. Okay, r square dm that we know. So by finding small dm, then multiplying with r square and integrating, okay, you will get the total moment of inertia. So let's see how this is found. For finding the moment of inertia, you have the standard equation I equals summation mi ri square. But in this case, our body is a continuous body, so summation can be replaced with integral. So we get I equals rho square dm. What is rho square here? It is nothing but the distance to the ring from the axis. Okay, and you see each wire segment is at equidistance from the axis. So rho is constant for every segment. Okay, rho is constant for every segment. And so we can write as rho equal to capital R and dm elementary mass equal to lambda times dl. dl is a small elementary distance. Okay, so linear mass density multiplied by dl. So we got dm. So we can now straight away integrate. I equals integral r square dm is lambda dm. And here r is a constant, you see, and lambda is also a constant. So you can take it outside. So what happens? R is a constant, m is a constant. If you take it outside, you can write I equals r square m by 2 pi r integral dl. Okay, because all these terms are constants. So integral dl will give you the total length of this hoop. Total length of this hoop is nothing but 2 pi r. 2 pi r. So you can substitute the integral dl with 2 pi r. So total moment of inertia equal to I r square m by 2 pi r into 2 pi r. So on cancelling 2 pi r and 2 pi r, you can write total moment of inertia of the hoop is equal to m r square. Okay, I hope the idea is clear. For m is the total mass of the ring and capital R is the radius of the ring. So this is the moment of inertia of the ring where the axis is perpendicular to the plane of the ring. Perpendicular to the plane of the ring. But often this may not be the case. Perhaps your axis of rotation may be horizontal along this direction or along this direction. Then what happens? Then the moment of inertia will be different. That is shown here. This is the case we studied. And let us imagine that the moment of inertia with respect to this axis, vertical axis, this is z axis, let us assume it is Iz. Okay, that is what we calculated. That was equal to mr square. Okay, now imagine another axis, a vertical horizontal axis, Ix. Horizontal axis x. Okay, let us imagine that when the ring revolves, rotates about this axis, let Ix be the moment of inertia. Similarly, you can imagine another axis, say y-axis, in a vertical direction, but lying in the plane of the ring. Okay, keep in mind this is perpendicular to the plane of the ring, but this is lying in the plane of the ring. So there is a theorem called the perpendicular axis theorem. It says that you can write Iz as equal to sum of Ix and alpha. Iz equals Ix plus alpha. This theorem is called perpendicular axis theorem. So by taking that theorem, you have learned this theorem in your school classes. So I am not repeating here. Already we know Iz is equal to mr square. Iz is equal to mr square. So Ix and Iy are numerically equal, even though they are mutually perpendicular. Their values are equal, and Ix is equal to Iy. So and its sum is equal to mr square. That implies that Ix is equal to mr square by 2, and Iy is equal to mr square by 2. So you see, moment of inertia with respect to the axis perpendicular to the plane is 2 times that due to an axis lying on the plane. Okay, this is half, but this is mr square. So Iz is greater than Ix. So we could find out moment of inertia of the ring or hoop with respect to different axes. So by knowing one of the value or remaining values, you can easily calculate whatever. Okay. Hope this idea is clear. It's a very simple calculation. Now come to another one. This is a disk here. A uniform disk is here, and a disk you can imagine is made up of infinite number of thin rings. Okay, whose radii varies from 0 to capital R. Okay, you can imagine they are made up of infinite number of rings. Okay, whose radius increases gradually. So the last one will be of radius capital R. Okay, so why we are assuming like that? Because then you can easily find the moment of inertia of the disk by integrating, finding the moment of inertia of a single ring. You find the mi of a single ring and then integrate from 0 to capital R. So you will get the total moment of inertia of the whole disk. Okay, that is what you are going to do. So for that, imagine your whole disk is of mass capital M and its radius is capital R. Okay. So what about and imagine axis is perpendicular to the plane of the disk. Okay, and we have already done. We imagine that and the disk is made up of large number of concentric hoops of radii ranging from 0 to R. Okay, so these all assumptions we made, and now consider a thin hoop like that of say some width d rho, and assume it is at a distance rho. And you keep in mind that our maximum radius is capital R. Okay, so we consider thin ring. Okay, hoop. So moment of inertia of that hoop can be imagined to be di. So you can total moment of inertia then will be equal to integral di. So what about this hoop? Area of this hoop will be total length is 2 pi rho multiplied by its width, that is d rho. Okay, so length into width, that will give you the area of this hoop. Any one of the area, or top area or bottom area. Okay, that we got. And we also know that moment of inertia of this ring will be equal to rho square times dm. Already we have it. Okay, distance square into mass of this ring. Okay, if we have again, what is dm here actually? Mass per unit area times dA is the area of this thin hoop. Okay, it's the area multiplied by mass. So you get the mass of this hoop. Okay, so mass of this hoop we got rho already we know. Okay, so dm will be equal to mass per unit area m by pi r square into 2 pi rho d rho. So you will get the mass of this hoop dm. Okay, return it. Now you can find the total moment of inertia. So I will be equal to rho square into m by pi r square. M by pi r square 2 pi rho d rho. Okay, this is what is called parameterization. We parameterize the values, parameters, then integration is very easy. You can very easily integrate with respect to rho. Okay, so here what happens? We took the constants outside, m, r, all constants, pi cancelled. So, and now the remaining terms inside the integral will be rho cubed d rho. Okay, it is simply nothing but integral x cubed dx, something like that. And we are integrating from 0 to capital R, obviously 0 to capital R. So let us do it. So what happens when you do that? M by 2m by r square outside, and on integration of this will raised to 4 by 4. And your limits start from 0 to r, okay, until the radius where it ends. So you have 2m by r square into rho raised to 4. So what happens if you put the value here, r raised to 4 by 4 minus 0. So beautifully we get I equals 2m by r square into r raised to 4. Okay, on again rearrange the terms, 2 cancelled, 4 cancelled, you get I equals m r square by 2. Okay, so this is the moment of inertia of a disk. Earlier we considered moment of inertia of a hoop, that was simply m r square, whereas for a disk it is m r square by 2. Okay, again you can use the perpendicular axis theorem and you can find the moment of inertia of the disk with respect to any axis lying on the plane of the disk. Okay, Ix plus Iy equal Iz can be used and you can calculate. So that is left for you, that calculation left for you, you can do it. Now come to a solid cylinder, moment of inertia cylinder, and you know a cylinder is in fact made up of large number of discs actually. Okay. The cylinder is you can stack one over another, you will get a cylinder. By stacking a large number of discs one over another, you get a cylinder. So you can say that the expression, in the actual expression for finding the moment of inertia of a cylinder is same of that of a disk. So that is equal to m r square. Okay, there is no difference, but value will change depending on the mass. Total mass will be different. So that is what is given here. Okay, m r square by 2. And if once you know this, you can find the moment of inertia of the disk with respect to any other axis. Okay, any other axis you can easily calculate. And now comes a thin rod. It's a stick or a rod, a cylindrical rod. Suppose it is rotating with respect to a perpendicular axis. Then what will be the total moment of inertia of the entire rod? That is what we want to calculate. So for that you take this axis, imagine a small thin disk dx at a distance x from the axis. So obviously the moment of inertia of this piece, small disk, will be x square into mass dm, x square into dm, because it is at a distance x from the axis of rotation. And total moment of inertia you can easily calculate, because disk length vary from minus L by 2 to plus L by 2. If this is 0, total length is capital L, then this side you can imagine as minus L by 2 and the other side you can imagine as plus L by 2. Okay, and how the integration will go? For that you have to replace your dm. Dm will be equal to mass of dx thickness. So that can be easily found by taking the mass per unit length. Mass per unit length is given by m by L into dx. That will give you the mass per unit length. Okay, you can replace dm with mass per unit length into dx. Place here, x square is already there. So we get mi equals minus L by 2 to plus L by 2, x square into m by L dx. Okay, and m and L both are constants. Okay, both are constants. So you can take outside integral. So m by L integral minus L by 2 to plus L by 2 x square dx. That is clear. And x square dx you can easily integrate, because that will be x square by x cube by 3. X cube by 3. So we get a mass by length in the x cube by 3. Your integration limits are minus L by 2 to plus L by 2. Okay, you can place inside it minus L by 2 all cube. Before that you can take the 3 outside. So we will have m by 3L into L cube by 8 minus L cube by 8. Okay, this is the upper limit applied here. This is the lower limit applied. So on suitable modifications, you will get the expression like this: m by 3L 2L cube by h. Okay, on cancellation of certain terms, you will get finally moment of inertia of the rod with respect to an axis passing through the center, and perpendicular length will be equal to ml square by 12. Very simple. Okay. So compared to other objects, its moment of inertia is smaller, because here in the numerator there is a denominator there is a 12. Okay. In previous case we had in such a large value numerator. Okay. So here the moment of inertia is comparatively lower with respect to other objects, provided that the dimensions are identical. That means mass, length, etc. are identical. So in this video class we studied about the three different types of objects: hoops, then disc, then a rod. Okay. Hope the ideas are clear. You try to watch the video once again carefully to understand it. Okay. And if suppose the axis is passing through one end, not through the middle, then what happens here? There will be a change in integral. We start from 0, it will end at capital L. So our integral limit is modified with respect to previous. In the previous case we had a minus L by 2 to plus L by 2, but here it is 0 to L, because our axis shifted from center to one side. Okay, so m by L you can take outside, and inside you have x square dx. Okay, and on integration of x square we get x cube by 3. Your limits start from 0 to L, and of course you can replace your x with L cube by 3. Okay, so what we get, simple modification will give you moment of inertia of the rod is equal to ml square by 3. Okay, so this is the moment of inertia of the rod with respect to an axis which is passing through one edge. Okay, so that is all about the discussion of moment of inertia of different early shaped objects. Okay, so now here comes a simple problem. You can see a merry-go-round here, the rotating merry-go-round, and a boy is standing over it. The radius of this merry-go-round is around 2 meters, and the boy is standing at a distance 1 meter from the axis. Okay, and it is revolving. In fact, it is revolving. So here is a question. A 25 kilogram child stands at a distance 1 meter from the axis of a rotating merry-go-round. The merry-go-round can be approximated as a uniform solid disc with a mass of 500 kilograms and a radius of 2 meters. Find the moment of inertia of the whole system. Okay, I hope the question is clear. You have the sufficient equations given or derived earlier, and you can imagine a merry-go-round as a disc. You can find the moment of inertia of the disc. And the object is here, a boy is at a distance. So you do the problem. Okay, I hope you have got enough clues to do the problem. Do the problem nicely. And here is another question. You can see there are three particles, point masses, and the point masses are located such a way that its center of mass is at the point 2, 2, 2. Okay, in the XYZ plane, center of mass point is at 2, 2, 2. Okay, I hope that it is here. Three particles are there, and for this three particle system, the center of mass point is at 2, 2, 2. And now see the problem. What the problem asks: the center of mass of three particles, 4 gram, 5 gram, and 6 gram, lies at a 2, 2, 2, as shown in the figure. Okay. Then, where should a fourth particle of mass 12 gram be placed so that the center of mass is shifted to the origin? This is the question. Okay, it's a very interesting question taken from your textbook. Here you have the equations, center of mass equation you have. Okay, M1 R1 plus M2 R2 plus Mn Rn divided by M1 plus M2. But here there are 3 particles initially, so you can write M1 x1, M2 x2, M3 x3 divided by total mass. At that point is given for x coordinate, for y coordinate, for z coordinates. Okay, then system changes, another body comes into the picture, another body comes into the picture. Okay, one more body is come. You see, 4th body is come. And as a result, the system changes and the center of mass point is shifted to 0, 0. Center of mass point is shifted to 0, 0. For that, where the particle should be placed. That's the question. Where the particle should be placed. That means you have to find the coordinate of the 4th particle. You can say x4, y4, z4. Your question will be modified as what is the value of x4, y4, z4. This is x1, y1, z1. This is x2, y2, z2. And this is x3, y3, z2. Yeah, this is x4, y4, z4. You have to find this coordinate. Okay, when that happens, what happens? The center of mass point of the system will be shifted to 0, 0. From which point? From 2 to 2. Okay, so I have given enough clues. I hope this is clear. This will be helpful for you to do this problem. Okay, hope you enjoyed this session. Thank you for watching this video. Thank you all. See you next time with another video. Okay, till then, goodbye.